tell us about the three groups for those who haven't heard your message yet?
Okay, this was about 6 weeks ago. God just gave me a picture of 3 different groups of Christians. And I had been in all 3 groups. And I saw God in the throne room just very passionate and holding his arms out to the people in these 3 groups, beckoning them to come to him. Well, all the people in the 3 groups thought they were in the throne room.
Yeah.
They thought that what they were doing had gotten them into the throne room. So the first group of Christians were those that they loved God a lot, that God had done a lot for them when they got saved, and so they felt indebted to him. They wanted to pay God back for all the good things he had done for them. And so the way they did that was to make sure they prayed enough, prayed at the right time, prayed in the right way, read their Bible a certain time, long enough, went to every Bible study they could, church every time they could. So, Christian activities. They tried to do as much as they could in their own strength to please God. That's the first group. The second group that God showed me were those that chased after signs, wonders, and miracles. And that group of people, the signs and the wonders and the miracles were used to give them evidence that God was pleased with them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you didn't get a word for you, or you didn't give a word for somebody else, I mean, I remember you left those meetings really dejected and feeling like, well, God loves that person and that person and that person, or like sometimes it was that whole side of the room. If I could have just sat on that side of the room, how dumb, you know, that you sit on the side of a room to know whether God's pleased with you or not. So that was the second group of Christians. The third group of Christians were those that were in full-time ministry. And they had started out, in fact, all 3 groups started out with their eyes on God and his goodness. But somehow they got their focus onto themselves and their goodness. Because that was the whole point. They didn't know they were good already. They didn't know they were the God kind. And so they spent all their Christian life trying to become.
Right.
They felt like they weren't as they ought to be, and they were trying to become it. So the people that were in full-time ministries, they built up their ministries, and that became their relationship with God, was the ministry. And they had to maintain it, because if it started falling back in any way, that meant God wasn't pleased with them.
Identity was